Welcome to the Pintastic Podcast, a podcast about growing profitability the right way with sustainable systems so you can be found first without tantrums over tech and trading sleep for success. Prepare yourself for mind-blowing discussions and actionable tips focused on Pinterest strategies, funnel marketing, and everything in between with your host, Laura Reich. So let's make Pinterest profitable for you.
All right, so we're just going to dive right in, Emily. I would love to know, now that you know we are going to be doing all things Pinterest and we have yours pulled up, two questions. What is the main goal that you would hope to get from Pinterest? And then what is something that you would love to have come through for you from doing this audit together here on this podcast?
Yes, I am so excited to learn from you. I'm a huge Pinterest user in my personal life, and I feel like it's one of the few places I was an early adopter back in the day, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. But I've never really understood how to leverage it for a business. So, what we're talking about here today, I have a podcast, and my podcast audience, the name of the show is Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman. So, it's for anybody who wants to tap in and learn about these curious topics that we explore with different experts every week. But
Yeah.
something that I've learned about the child-free community, it's a group that doesn't know it's a group. So when I think about Pinterest and my goals, I'm really looking for visibility and just a different channel to get in front of people who I deeply believe would be excited to find content that is created for child-free women. Not a lot out there in society feels like it's made for us. And we're doing this podcast to fill that gap. But I still think that people aren't going into Google search, let's say, and looking for our child-free resources. But I do think they use Pinterest for more personal things. And I'll let you educate me on that. So really, it's about visibility. I would just love to learn today, what are people using Pinterest for in 2025 and beyond? And if we have a message or a platform or something that we want to share with like-minded people, how do we use Pinterest to accomplish that?
Such good questions. I love it so much. Okay, so first, before we get into the nuances and everything like that, Pinterest as a user is very different than Pinterest as the marketing brain. And it's like that for a lot of things in life, right? As a user, you go to it with the intention of finding something that you want. As the marketer or the business owner, you want to be shown for that intent. And so that's where we have to make that connection. The visibility is going to come from the different phrases that people are typing in. The common misnomer that I get a lot is people don't go there for brands. So like you said, they're not going to go there saying, I want to listen to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman. But they might be leading the life of child-free. So they are searching for other blog posts or other people that are talking about this to have that community around them. And that's what we want to tap into from the marketing side, because podcasts are huge on Pinterest, but 9 times out of 10, what we do as business owners and podcast owners is we will go in and type in the title of the podcast episode, put that on a pin, put that on Pinterest, or we'll take those clips that we use for Instagram or Reels, and it will be the title or the phrase that's being said in that video clip or audio clip, and then put that on Pinterest. The disconnect is those are probably not the phrases that are being found, and I'll guarantee that Pinterest doesn't understand those phrases yet. And so we'll dive into this a little bit when I pull some stuff up for you, but there's always Pinterest the computer and Pinterest the user. The computer needs to understand, what is it we're talking about and how does it fit into my computer, my algorithm, so that I can show it to the user. Your phrases and your podcast titles, while they may be SEO'd and amazing and searched online and other places, they might not be what people know to type in as a user. And so then the computer doesn't understand who to send it to, and the user doesn't find it because there's this disconnect. That's what we're going to try to tackle today for you. So I am going to bring your screen up. So this is your podcast right now on Pinterest. And so what we're looking at is two different tabs. I'll say created and saved. You can see saved is showing right now. The boards are what you're going to want to focus on for your podcast, for the computer. And the boards are really going to be the foundation of what Pinterest needs to understand about your podcast as a whole. So when we're talking about Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, let's talk about some of the topics or some of the ideations that you discuss on the podcast, right? Because it's not just you talking only about not having children. You have this amazing platform where you stay curious. So what are some of those topics that you've discussed in the past?
Yeah, some of our most listened to episodes, one is on personal style, one is on sustainability and how we can take individual action to support the planet. One is what is modern etiquette in the digital age? How should we all be behaving if we want to be polite? We've done menopause that was really successful, influential speaking. So I can keep going, but those are a few that come to mind.
I love that. So the way that we can talk to Pinterest, the computer, is by talking to what Pinterest already knows as their common interest categories. We call these as bloggers annotations. I mean, there's so many different ideas, categories, whatever you want to look into. But this is something Pinterest publicly puts out. And one of the things you can see is I looked up the topic menopause. And even women's health is something that's going to be there for perimenopause, for not having children, all of those. But these are the main interests that Pinterest knows and has in their algorithm. And so when we look up menopause, you can see here how it says women's health and then menopause. And this is the lineage or taxonomy of how Pinterest understands things. So you don't necessarily want to start with health because that's super, super broad. But we are talking about child-free living in multiple different areas, menopause, and all the other topics that you listed. So women's health could be something that you would want to have for a board because that could be a main board that encompasses anything you talk about on the podcast. Now, if you do have more than one episode about menopause, or there are other things that center around menopause that you have multiple conversations or multiple type of podcast episodes about it, you may also want to create a specific menopause board. If there's only one episode, let's stick to women's health and maybe some other ones that would be easier to relate. And the reason I say that is because one episode does not equal one board or even one pin. If you have women's health and say you did perimenopause, menopause, and menstruation, let's just pick three of them, right? You could have 5 different pins designed with different titles and then also have that lead to that one podcast. So now if we have 3 episodes all centered around women's health, and we have 5 pins for menstrual and 5 pins for menopause and 5 pins for perimenopause, you now have 15 pins that can go to that one board over a span of time. So that's why it's really important to have multiple boards that can circumference the different topics that we have, right?
My mind is already blown. Right now, we have menopause, metabolism, strength training, disordered eating. We've done all those episodes and they all do relate back, but I would have never thought of thinking of boards and categories that relate to our content.
Yep. And here's the other thing to think about is they're going to be searching perimenopause over here. If they're going through menopause, right? And they're doing strength training, those are two different topics that they're searching, but it's all centered under women's health. And so Pinterest could serve someone under women's health who's searching menopause, the strength training stuff, because it's still categorized under women's health. They may not know that they want to search for it right now, or maybe they've searched for it in the past, right? So everything on this platform is done with search intent, meaning your feed that you see when you go into Pinterest is curated based on your past searches. So everything is hyper curated to what you actually want to see and what you actually want to learn about or find more like minds about. And that's really helpful in terms of the longevity of your content. Because even though I'm searching perimenopause now, menopause is coming. It's going to help with that as long as we have that foundation.
Okay. This is
How
exciting. Now my mind is spinning with other categories, right? Where we could have multiple episodes. So I'm trying to think, is there anything related to style? We've done personal style, which is still our most listened to episode. We've done interior design. We're getting ready to do one with a home organizer, the tangible stress of clutter. How do we make that better? So I don't know. I feel like all those things are related to aesthetics, but it's a lot of personal expression too.
Yeah. So this is one way to do it. Again, this link for this will be in the show notes because this is 100% put out by Pinterest for free. Another way to do it though is you can go into Pinterest and just search. So you go up to the top search bar. We can say interior design is one. I know it's huge. This is
Right.
what we call ABC search. And so you can click on interior design and then you can start to scroll through all of this, and Pinterest will give you their related searches. So you see how this is here. These are what Pinterest is saying people are searching for. This is the taxonomy. So if I click on this is what people are understanding for home inspo or things like that. And so we can also start to look at different boards that are created. There is a program that I use, and I have an affiliate link in the show notes. But what I do suggest you use is something called PinClicks. Now, this is where we can type in anything else. So outside of interior design, because I know it's in there, you said home organization, right? I'm not even done typing out organization. And you can see these are all topics that Pinterest puts out as their main topics. And so what I do then is I will look at, okay, let's see what this is on Pinterest. It will pull up in another tab. And this is what I'm going for. Up here at the top, you'll see explore, home decor, storage and organization, and then home organization tips. That is the taxonomy again. And that's how to find it. You could do a board, you could do multiple in this category so that you can just share those 5 pins that you create for that one episode to multiple boards as well, which again increases that spider web and that ripple effect of that one episode. So you could have a board called storage and organization. You could have a board called home organization ideas. You can also, when you're in here, do the scroll method, and here's other related interests that might be better suited than some of the other ones. If it's for smaller homes, or maybe it's apartments, maybe it's do it on your own. There's so many here. And when you click on them, again, this one is a good one to land on. I can tell you because it just says explore and organizing. It's not going to be a main board that you want to use, but it is a highly searched term because Pinterest suggested it to you. So when you don't see that lineage what I mean by is these carrots, and it's okay, this is how we go down to niche more, then I would suggest you use it as a keyword rather than specifically for a board. But all of this comes from Pinterest. So all of this is understanding and knowing that Pinterest is going to be able to serve this to the right area. And so even when I just go to home decor, which is one of their main ones, then you can start to see cozy bedroom, kitchen ideas. You could break it down even more minutely if you wanted to. To be able to find these ideas, it's just pinterest.com/ideas. And then you're going to have their main ones that they provide to you. Now, obviously, you don't see everything on here because marketing, I can tell you, is under design. And I just know that because I have done a ton of research for Pinterest, media marketing, things like that. So you will have to go down this rabbit hole for a little bit, but it will be able to bring up other things that will help you find child-free life. And people are putting tons of stuff on here like child-free choice. They actually have an acronym. I didn't know that. Did you know there's an acronym for it?
No, never heard of that. I already have a question. How do I connect the dots, or do I connect the dots between these topics and child free? If I have a women's health board and then maybe I have a home and interior design board, determining what the best buckets are that align with our content and that people are searching for, do I connect that to child free, or is it we just want people to get to the board and then those pins link to the episode about that topic?
Great question. So the boards are to bring the people. The pins are to niche down and have them self-select. And so on the pin is either going to be the video of the podcast, the audio snippet, a title, and that is going to help them self-select if that is something they want to be for. You're also going to use keywords for that too, right? So as we saw on the child-free side, it is going to be more of a keyword because there's no lineage or taxonomy here. So when you create the board for home organization, then you can also use the keyword of home organization for child-free living. And then that puts both of those things together. So now when you have Pinterest understanding home organization, and then you have the user understanding, well, I am organizing a house without children. That is so me. Then they're going to go through and listen to the podcast. And you don't also have to do that for every single one either, because I do know I've been on your podcast. It was amazing. One of my favorites ever. There are ways that you talk about helping people understand the child-free living from a different perspective. I'm not living child-free. However, I have a nonprofit that I want people to help understand with children or without children, legacy is energy. And so those topics for you, I feel like you could put on Pinterest to bring in a wider awareness about the people who are curious because they do have kids or they didn't make that choice, but they still want to learn how to be able to relate to or support other types of women, which is a huge
Yeah.
thing. Then you don't have to put child-free keywords on those pins. You can put other keywords that help them relate to, learn about XYZ, right? Learn about legacy as women, learn about whatever it is, insert here. I think that will also help broaden your awareness where, yes, we still want to reach and help and support the women who have chosen to be child free. But there's also that other side of we want to educate those that do have children of the different walk of life and different choice. I think that's where that connection can come for you, where it's going to be different than just only talking about, I don't have kids, so that we can talk about so many other things together.
Okay, amazing. And yeah, that's really important to me in the positioning of the show. I don't want people to make assumptions based on the title, which is understandable, but I'm always trying to
Yeah.
emphasize the curious part of the title. We do the show with a child-free perspective because I'm child-free. So whether we're talking about how we get dressed or how we save our money or how we think about our legacy, it's for people who are living child-free, but we're not just talking about being child-free the whole time, right? We're talking about the
Yeah.
finances and all the other pieces. So yeah, it makes sense to me. I want to be creating things on any platform, but on Pinterest where it gets the eyeballs in, but it's also accurate. So that when the eyeballs come in, they're not like, oh, now that I clicked on this, this isn't what I thought. Right. So I like the idea of centering the topics we're discussing and then putting that niche moment that it's not just financial advising for child-free people.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the beauty of you get to choose, right? There are so many different searches happening on the platform. Every time you create a new pin, you get to choose where that pin goes to. So even for a strategy perspective for you, having an episode about menopause, we'll just go back to that one. There are so many different keywords that you could talk about on that episode. Child-free menopause, menopausal symptoms for any women and how to be able to deal with them. Maybe you talked about transitioning from perimenopause into menopause. And so now you have 3 totally separate keywords for each of those pins, because remember, we create multiple pins for that one episode, and each one of those is gonna hit a different type of person. Now, all 3 of those lead back to the same thing, but are bringing in different types of curious women. That's how you can then branch out with that one episode.
Okay. I have questions about that too. Keep going.
You also post blog post with your podcasts and newsletters or other places, YouTube, things like that.
Yes, we do a blog post on the website for every episode, and every recording goes on YouTube. We're working on Substack to get that up and running as another touch point, and then we post on Instagram. So that's what we're doing so far.
Amazing. So you can do multiple pins leading to the podcast episode itself. You can do multiple pins leading to the blog post. You can do multiple pins leading to Substack, YouTube, and Instagram. And Instagram is the only social platform that connects with your Pinterest account. So you will be able to track that in your analytics to see if linking a pin to your Instagram account actually leads to results. And you'll see that right in your Pinterest analytics, which is really cool because for some people it works and for others it doesn't. The determining factor of where to link to is where is the listener base coming from right now and where are you getting the most conversions for that? So by conversions, it could be monetizing, it could be sponsorships, it could be downloads, it doesn't matter, but that's your choice. And where is that happening right now? Is it on YouTube? Is it on the podcast direct? Do you get more newsletter subscribers from the blog post, right? And that's where you start first and then test and add in the other avenues.
Okay. This feels like such a basic question, but if I'm creating all these posts, multiple posts per episode, which is per topic, and then tackling that topic from multiple angles, what are all these posts? You said audio snippets, you said video snippets. What should the
Yeah,
post actually be?
that's a great question. It's not a basic question. Pinterest users habitually click through on static images. So they can be just text overlay. They can be picture snippets of the cover of the podcast with the guest speaker. That is habitually how Pinterest users have been taught to be able to get the information that they're searching for. The caveat to that is we always have to play nice, right? Pinterest also has video, they have carousels, they have different ways to make collages. So I would say if you are brand new to the platform, start with static. Keep it easy for you. put your title on there, make sure it's got the keyword or focus that you're going for that people search for, and put that out there. When you're in a good system with that and you have the other assets, then take those assets and put them on there. So I do know that our wonderful podcast manager, Amy, shout out to Amy. If you guys don't know So True Digital, please go check them out, or Borrowed Influence, because that is an amazing program. If you get those assets, she and her team make amazing reels of every podcast that we do. And so those can be repurposed as a video pin. And you can use that right there. The only thing that I would say tweak and change is put the title on it, on that front cover image or the screenshot, or create an image and make it the cover image for that, because Pinterest is such a visually searched platform. Even if someone doesn't watch the reel on Pinterest, Pinterest will be able to search those terms that you're using in the title and serve that to more people that will watch it. There's some other nuances, but that's the high level overview of don't just take it from Instagram and post it. Make sure to do the little tweaks to make it for Pinterest. And then the third step is get fun with it and start creating collages, or do a carousel of 3-4 different images that Pinterest will turn into like an MP4, but they slide through those images for you automatically, so you can give some more information and things like that.
Okay. My feelings as I'm listening to you, what an opportunity to link to all these places and to just increase the reach. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, so many more things to create. And you and I are fortunate to have Amy and their amazing team with the video. But as a Pinterest user, I feel like my standard is so high for the visual quality. That's why I like Pinterest, because the world's best interior designers on there and celebrity fashion and all this stuff. So how do you support people either through your work, or what do you recommend to get into a rhythm where we can create this volume of content that's really high caliber without making it a full-time job?
Yeah, 100%. So I obviously have my own services, but the easiest way that I tell people to be able to do this on their own is really create 15 templates or so in Canva or whatever you use that you can cycle through. We all have some support system, whether it's a VA, a social media team, a friend, family member, right? Utilize them as well. If you are in the place where you cannot hire on someone to run your Pinterest for you, utilize them. Have them help you create the templates, or you create them, or hire a designer to create them. Have them in your back pocket, because then what we do internally is we will actually plan out the entire month of titles. You have a schedule too, right? If I know I have 4 podcast episodes that are coming up that haven't been published, great. We're going to put that to the side, because Pinterest can work from the backlog of stuff that you have for what's actually being searched right now in this time. So there's a website on Pinterest. It's trends.pinterest.com. You can go on there and you can start to see what are the ebbs and flows through the seasons. For Q4, we know there's all holidays. There's tons of activities people get together for. There's different winter activities versus non-winter states, which I'm very jealous of. All of those things are going to be trending for Q4, and then Q1, New Year's, all these things, and they happen every single year. And so we tell our clients, we do this for them, where we will research what is coming up for the next 3 to 6 months in terms of the trends. And then we pair those trends with what we already have in terms of content. And I do this in an Excel document. I call it the blueprint. So it is one of our services that we have, but even for anybody doing it on their own, piece of paper, Excel document, write out the podcast title. Then what are 5 titles you could write that circumference what you talk about in that podcast title or in that podcast episode, right? Because it's not 2 minutes long. You probably have 5 different topics you could pull from it. Know what the keyword is that you want to put in there, and then either
Mhm.
hand it off to your VA, hand it off to your Pinterest strategist, or take that when you have time, copy and paste into the templates and schedule it out for the month. I have a content planner also that I sell. I believe it's under $50. I think it's $47. It has all this. There's a tab on there where you say, okay, this is the keyword. This is the podcast episode. This is the link to the podcast, the link to the blog post, the link to the YouTube. Now you've left space in that Excel document. So
Mhm.
podcast and then 5 quick titles, and then blog post, 5 different titles, and then YouTube, 5 different titles. Now you have 15 titles for those 15 designs you already have pre-designed, and you just plug and play and then put them into your scheduler. And you can schedule out, like in Tailwind, people are scheduled out 2 to 3 months in advance. So you don't have to always be sitting and scheduling today for tomorrow or next week. You can get out pretty far in advance where then you feel like you have that free time back.
Good for them. It's my forever goal to be scheduled out months with content, and I do have great help, and we're not quite there yet, but I know that we can over time, and anytime you embrace a new platform, it's new.
So I want to lovingly challenge you to say you have plenty of content to get you and your VA scheduled out for at least 2 months, where then you could have some breathing room to set up whatever type of strategy you want. Even if it is one title for one podcast to 3 different areas, that's 3 pins.
I know we have that content. We have tons of content from the past that we could go back to, and I like the idea that Pinterest is an evergreen place. I mean, you mentioned that like different topics trend at different times, which is important to remember, but am I correct in thinking that if we do all this work and we get all these older episodes out there, because Pinterest is evergreen and podcasts are evergreen, it'll last, right? Like it'll continue to drive traffic.
Yes, 100%. For a really long time. I still have a blog post that was posted, I think, 6 years ago. And I'm still getting traffic from Pinterest to it and email subscribers because I have that blog post optimized to be able to do that. So yeah, as long as that's the phrase people are searching for, you're still going to get traffic for it. Here's the other thing. Don't let the trends scare you off from trying. If you have content and you can create the pins, publish it, because people are out there without optimizing for keywords and trends and boards, and they are still getting traffic. If you are not at least just taking your podcast and repurposing it right now, that's still a missed opportunity for some of that traffic to come in without ever getting to the level of, okay, now we're going to start doing the research. Now we're going to start doing the trends, because you still can get traffic from it by just posting to the platform.
Okay. This is encouraging. I know I can do it with help, and this is exciting. So just to connect this back to the boards to make sure I get it, when we're doing all these posts, I'm so used to using Pinterest as a user. I'm collecting other people's pins and saving them on my boards. But if I'm doing this for the podcast, I would be creating all these pins and we're posting them, scheduling them out over time. And then do we put the pins that we post on board?
On your boards, yes, and that's how you're going to schedule them. That's why you want a couple different ones, like women's health and women's fitness or whatever, because then that one podcast you talked about, strength training, can go to women's health and women's fitness. And then the menopause one can go to women's health and menopause. And so if you have a couple different boards that are all synergetically aligned with that topic, then you can save that one pin, one title, one design to multiple boards too. That again is where that ripple effect comes.
Okay, that's super helpful. And then I just want to touch on Substack. You mentioned that you can link to that. And I'm curious for myself, I have a brand business outside of the podcast, and I am finding a lot of clients that are really focused on a Substack strategy for Q4. And there's a lot of exciting things happening with Substack. I'm certainly not an expert, but then it's the same challenge that we have with anything that we create. How do we drive traffic there, right? We need more and more and more people to sign up for our Substack if we're spending time and energy marketing there. Is there anything specific with Pinterest and Substack together?
Yeah, so still very new for us. I'm very excited that you brought up the other side of your life because I want to touch on two things. One, please put both of your brands on this Pinterest account.
On the same account.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't even know I could.
So I want you to be able to talk about the overarching brand, which is more or less going to be you and your marketing brand and your branding agency, and then have the content around the podcast as well. The boards are what house those keywords and that content. And so I have my Pinterest account under my name and my branding for Laura Reich, but then I have the Simply Fantastic agency. I have Little Family Legacy blog, which is my family's crafting blog. I have my nonprofit, Heritage Within, and then I also have another venture coming soon. Yes, she leads Sisterhood. So all of those can be underneath that one platform, that one account, because you're focused on the search of it. And this is my loving challenge for you because being a branding person, you're like, but no, they're two totally separate things. The search, though, from the platform is what drives the traffic. If you can find the common denominator to build the profile on, then the branding can go in the boards.
Okay, this is huge. I'm glad that you're sharing this because for so many entrepreneurs, there's this thing happening. It's been happening. It's just getting more and more pronounced where everybody's, okay, I have this business over here that sells services. Now I'm launching a product line. I also have my personal brand, or I want to start getting paid to speak. And there's a lot of confusion on how do I weave these things together? Do I always need to weave these things together? Should sometimes they be separate? And that's something that's probably the number one question I've been getting in 2025 from clients. How does it all fit together around their name when sometimes the businesses are super separate and they serve different audiences? So am I understanding right? Maybe Pinterest is a place where it does make sense to be you, center it around your personal brand, your personal name, and then house all of these interests, topics, etc., in organized boards, but it all relates to you.
Yes, 100%. And I go against the grain on a lot of other experts in this area because I have done this for clients and I've tested it for clients. You can have multiple websites claimed on that one profile. Only one of them is going to show on the main profile, but that's not where people are clicking. And so that's why, to me, it doesn't make sense to stifle your marketing efforts to try to span across multiple accounts. It's search based, it's intent based. And so why not? If Pinterest has the ability to be able to claim multiple websites, why are we trying to have multiple accounts to manage when nobody got time for that? Sorry, but I just don't.
Seriously. Well, that's where it becomes a problem. People don't do it. It's already so much to think like, oh, I have different Instagram pages. I have different websites. I have different email inboxes. And then it's one more thing that I have to divide my brain. And then you just don't. So I think this is huge. To me, this is a mic drop moment of this show to learn for everybody out there who's, oh my God, I'm multifaceted. I'm multi-passionate. I have all these different avenues. I guess I need a marketing channel on Pinterest for all of them individually. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Okay, that makes me excited.
Good. I'm so glad. I know a lot about you behind the scenes, so I didn't necessarily wanted to bring forth some of your other ventures that you have, but I'm so glad you did because it is easier to be able to do it all in one. It's less to manage and you'll find benefit from it. I've had clients that had 6 to 8 different websites. Some were blogs, some were services, some were products, like you said. And it helps too, because then you have more links and more URLs to lead back to, which is what Pinterest wants in the first place.
So yeah, say more about that. Pinterest likes it when we have multiple websites and things attached to our account.
Yeah, so not necessarily attached to the account, but Pinterest likes the diversity in the URLs. What I mean by that is if you have that podcast episode and we talked about it being on a blog post and the podcast directly in the YouTube account, those are all different URLs. But now if you're also adding into the mix, like I have this services landing page and an email landing page and a product-based landing page. And then maybe I have a blog post about this product. And then those are all different URLs that you can use because Pinterest, unlike social, you can go and share your website 500 times a day. Same URL, same thing. I don't suggest it, but you can do it. Pinterest will recognize that in their computer. And they'll recognize that as being spammy and trying to just get people to go to your links. And you'll actually be deprioritized in the account to not be shown as much. So when you diversify what your links are and where you're leading them to, regardless if it's the same topic or the same search word, how many times can I say Pinterest differently? But my whole account centers around Pinterest because that is where most of my content comes from. And the more we can diversify that, regardless of the topic or the keyword, the better it is. Pinterest focuses on the URL and the pin design.
Okay. Interesting. If I create templates in Canva and I have menopause written in a Canva template and then I'm uploading that in Pinterest as a JPEG, does it read the post itself or am I typing that in somehow in the back end with the post?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a visual search button. I can show you here. When you go into this pin, you'll see this little thing here that says explore. That is their visual search. When you click on that, you can say what you want it to search. You can hover over it. It will search the whole pin and then it pulls up more things like that. So you could also say, I want this whole thing instead of just the quote. And now it's that. Maybe I just want to see if there's more from this part. And then you can see other things that look like that. This is how they do it while you are not actually on the platform. And so now you can see empower kids, let kids fail. It's going off of the kids here, but you could also focus on what that phrase is that you want. And this is where I also caution, be careful, because when I do just these clouds, that's all you're going to get. Also be careful to not use the same stock image over and over and over again. That is the real and raw of how Pinterest will actually search with you on it or not, physically on it. It's on there.
I've learned so much. It's very cool. It's different. In some ways, there's similarities to how we think about marketing, I think, overall, but there's some specific things that make me feel like there's a real advantage to Pinterest specifically. Visual search, you don't get that in all platforms, and that makes things harder in some ways. So, yeah, I'm so excited.
Yay. I'm so grateful you let me dive into things for the podcast and now branding and all your things.
I'm grateful too. I feel inspired to do things, and I got to go change my account name, but I want to do it. I feel like it's worth it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, any final wrap up questions that you have for me that you want to cover?
I don't think so. I'm sure as I'm doing this, I'll be reaching out to you for help and your expertise. And I'm grateful to know that you have a variety of services in this. And I understand why you do, because even though you're making it sound super approachable, sometimes we just also need to outsource and get help. So I'm happy to have that knowledge.
Perfect. I am here when and if you are ready, my dear.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for being on here. And I cannot wait to see what you and possibly your VA create together.
It's going to be magical.
Thanks so much for listening to the Pintastic Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.